Welcome into Live at Liberty. We are doing Truth Over Trends right now, which people send in some topics, and we've got this one's going to take a while. You're going to have to hang with it. So it's got multiple parts. The war in Iran. Does the Bible really call for America to support Israel? If you've seen the Tucker Carlson video where he's talking to Ted Cruz, there's been a lot of stuff.
Well, there's the Huckabee interview too.
Oh, bless.
I missed that one.
Yeah, because Huckabee's like ambassador to Israel. That's even more.
Well, I think
it's more of the same though.
I was just saying.
Okay, I think even without watching that, I think
you kind of know.
Okay. Yeah, it's all kind of really the same.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that. Who are the Palestinians? Is this the end of the world? And does it fulfill Bible prophecy? I feel like we need to. That's great. It starts with.
I was going to say
that. We have like an excellent Spotify for this.
Well, I was thinking like, does the CCLI license cover "It's the end of the world"?
And see, I was like, war. What is it good? Like, and so I'm just thinking all of these different songs. Can we not make a Spotify
Birds,
to go
snakes,
along with
and airplanes. Lenny Bruce is not afraid. I ever again.
This is quite the intro already.
Welcome to Live at Liberty.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the war in Iran if we know it.
You've got coffee. I've got coffee.
He's
Levi's
got an
hiding an
energy
energy
drink.
drink.
And
I do
I've got my
need to,
ADD meds.
You just have your energy.
No, I'm on medication.
But
Let's
here,
do it.
This is for a special
That's as
occasion.
close as you could get to Israel
You brought
today.
out. I love that.
The Cairo mug.
So Austin
Makes my heart
always
smile.
has his awesome little coffee thing, right? And for Austin, it's not as much about the mug. I'm a mug
content.
guy.
Well, this is just because my other mugs were dirty today.
That's funny.
This is not my preferred.
So you care more about the mug.
I like to get mugs from places that I go.
Oh yeah, mugs are
Right?
cool. Yeah.
So I brought this one because we're talking about the Middle East today, right? Yeah. I'm a little bit invested in this topic. So, right, got an undergrad degree in biblical theology, got a master's degree in biblical theology, have had lunch in a Muslim mosque in Birmingham. They said you were the only we're not really Protestants, Babs. He said you're the only Protestant person to ever be. I wrote a blog article. It's called Lunch with Islam. So years ago in Birmingham, I did a sermon series called Investigating Islam. They all came, like the leadership of the mosque came every Wednesday night I was doing this, and they invited us to lunch. And me and a guy named David Carmichael, we took them up on it, went into the mosque, had lunch, went into the mosque, had a really fascinating discussion of this.
That'd be interesting.
Been to a couple of different, for invitations, to the Jewish synagogues to talk with the rabbis about what's going on in Israel and all that kind of stuff. I've had some fascinating conversations there. Have been to Cairo.
Yeah.
Have been to the largest Muslim mosque in Cairo, and I've been to Starbucks in
Can we
Cairo.
do like show notes and add those? I'd love to hear, read that blog.
I wasn't expecting Birmingham to come out. He's like,
in Birmingham.
I had lunch at the largest mosque. I was thinking Alexandria or like somewhere over in like Syria. He's like, Birmingham.
But here's the interesting thing about this mug. You get a Starbucks, and they always have those. I can't remember what the series is called, but it's like every city has a Starbucks mug, right? Mm-hmm. So when I was over there, we were there. This would have been 2018, maybe. But this, whatever year it was the year after the Arab Spring Revolution and all that kind of stuff. When I bought this mug in the States, it was worth like $200 and something.
Heck yeah.
So, yeah, because you couldn't get over there and get one. So I actually bought a couple of them. So
if you ever get
Is that how
desperate,
you paid for your
put them
girls
on
to go to
eBay.
school? You're just selling black market Cairo mugs.
But, I mean, obviously I haven't sold them because they're just really cool.
I mean,
They are
speaking
really
of the
cool.
Iran war and gas prices, you might have to be thinking about that here soon.
I need to fill up my truck. Anybody want to buy this?
Yeah.
Buy this mug, right?
Yeah. Limited edition.
We are going to
That's
talk about
funny.
This
it.
episode is brought to you by lack of sleep.
I know. Right? I was just thinking, I love that you were in Cairo and you brought back a Starbucks. It's like when people look for the McDonald's. When you go overseas, it's like, really? You had all this access to great food and you found the McDonald's?
That's the safest place to eat anywhere in the world is a
think so?
McDonald's.
Yeah.
You can get like a shawarma.
I say Mav did
or
Burger
something
King
from
when we were in
McDonald's,
Rome. I was like,
yeah.
whatever, kid.
I have been to the McDonald's in Moscow, the first one they ever built that's got like 50 cash registers. It did back in.
Yeah.
That's what
the
y'all should do
90s.
when you go to Romania. Just track down the McDonald's and take a group shot.
Listen,
And get a mug.
I'm on a McDonald's kick right now.
What?
Oh.
McDonald's?
You're
Yes.
so like
Here's
a
the-
foodie, and you're going to McDonald's.
I know it's.
And yes, that was judgment.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate
Okay.
it. I receive it. Okay. Here's the thing.
Yeah, I need an explanation.
When you're a kid, this is just the arc of life here.
Okay.
You're a kid. Yeah.
The golden
The
arcs
golden
of life.
Yeah.
arc.
Oh, I love that. Okay.
Anyway, thank you.
I'm so sorry.
You love McDonald's when you're a kid, and then
Yeah.
grew up, hated McDonald's. Now it's like it's just this weird full circle thing where I tried my wife's leftover Big Mac, like what she didn't eat the other night after we went and saw the Hoppers movie, which is a really
Yeah, we're
funny
going
little
Monday.
movie. It's good. Return to
Heard
form
nothing
for
about it.
Pixar. It's funny.
Okay.
Anyway, and we got McDonald's after,
Laughing
and
at
I'm
me.
always sick of going to McDonald's because there's like my kids always want it, and I'm like, there's nothing I can eat here but the fries. But I like ate her Big Mac leftovers. I'm like, this is actually really good. I've always been so repulsed by the idea, but we had our discipleship group.
I said you on Sunday because Danny
on
went.
Sunday
Yeah.
after church, and because I film part of the podcast after church on Sunday, and so Danny, I just sent my card with him like, can you get me a Big Mac?
You totally did.
I mean,
I might eat one for lunch.
I mean, you
today.
had you had a 50-50 shot of either food poisoning or nostalgia, and luckily it was nostalgia. So,
Congratulations.
yeah.
That's so funny.
More power to you.
I can't justify it though. It is gross, but I'm just
So I
It's
remember
a
Happy
phase.
Meals in the boxes when you
Yeah.
actually
When they
got a
were
little
happy,
box,
yeah.
and then it was like 39-cent burger, 49-cent
That's the
cheeseburger.
tax now?
not
I remember
39
that.
anymore.
Yeah.
That is not the case anymore.
It's like a Cairo mug. now.
That's probably the last time I ate at McDonald's. I don't know that my daughters have ever eaten a McDonald's burger. They were chicken fingers kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, that generation morphed into. When I was a kid growing up, man, getting McDonald's was incredible.
big deal.
So,
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm kind of
Anyway.
there now.
yeah,
Another thing you and Mav have in common.
you've gone full circle, right?
If they just had the ball pits back for you. Sorry, man.
Could you imagine
Yeah.
getting into one of those nowadays? Blech.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Anyway, talk to us about the
Yeah.
war.
That's better
Speaking
than-
of
that's better
getting
than the
into
ball
things,
I
pits.
think
let's
that's
go.
next segment.
Hold that
Oh
topic.
my
we
gracious
got-
me!
We
We'll
got some
get there.
lighter
So
material
let's do
to
some
cover.
news and notes. Stephen Cochran's gonna do our birthdays and anniversaries and our announcements. But let me give some news and notes and tell a really cool story about Sunday. So some of the news and notes. Congratulations, Jake Keener, on passing his
go.
commercial pilot license
Unreal.
test.
So cool.
He's
What
been
an
working on
achievement.
that. He's been working hard for a long time on that.
I told Jake, and he's been flying a while, and I told him, man, I love you. I appreciate. I'm not getting in one of them little planes with you, and it's nothing on him. It's more about the plane. So who in here would fly a little plane
Not a
with Jake?
chance.
No. I see them.
You do that.
I mean, I'm
above
not
my
asking
house
for a
all the
ride or
time.
anything, but yeah, if he was like, hey, do you want to go have lunch at the largest mosque in Birmingham? We'll fly down there and it'll take you like 30 minutes. I'd be like, let's go get a Big Mac, I guess. Or whatever.
Man,
I mean, I'd wait.
That's
I'd have
so
a
much
sign,
risk
welcome
in
back.
one statement.
I trust my boy. I got you.
Oh, I trust
No,
him. I just don't want to be
I'm
in
more
the air, and I
talking about-
don't like small
Never mind.
spaces.
Yeah,
Mine is more about the
okay.
plane size. It has nothing to do with his ability. It has everything to do with
Oh, yeah.
the size of the plane, not about that life.
Your face
I
already
just-
looked like you were in there.
Like
You're
I'm already stressed out. Like that.
You
that
remember
really
the
makes me
little
stressed.
flyoplanes at Lake Winnie that went upside
Oh,
down?
yeah, right.
They're like super
Not a
dangerous.
chance.
I feel like that's what it would be like.
That's the thing for me. I don't know if I'm as afraid of crashing in the ground. I just don't want to be sitting that close to a dude that long.
Nope.
You know what I'm saying?
Something I'm like, I've put off my MRI 3 times because the idea of getting into like the little thing, I can't do it. So, but
Be
I'm not
like, yeah,
adventurous.
Jake, this is awesome, man.
And then turns.
That's
No.
my own mental illness.
But
So
you
if
do get a
somebody
really
offers
cool,
you a ride
like-
on the back of their motorcycle, you decline pretty
Oh,
quickly.
there's-
I was like, Cody Malone, this is your opportunity.
It's like
Like
Dumb and
Dumb and
Dumber.
I just pictured the backfire.
That is the most.
I will rent you the suit if you do it.
No.
Cody Malone would totally get. He'd
You talk about weird.
Yeah, there's a lot of
awkward-
guys
Yeah.
here that that would
Pinky
probably
Collins would do it.
Okay, whatever.
If I can make that happen, is that you saying you do it?
No.
Okay, just checking.
That's me telling you I'd
he wouldn't even
never do
fly.
that.
be a great
Ride
way
a-
to raise some money for like a mission trip. Just how much
Yes.
money would you pay to see
Ride
Pastor
a
Brian?
motorcycle by myself. Okay.
Have you done that before?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah. If Shannon was on the back of it, I'd be good with
A little
that.
different.
Well,
Any other human, I'd just get off
you
me.
can't. You can't.
Get off.
That's kind of why I don't want to do skydiving because you have to do it tandem the first few
Oh,
times, and I just
yeah.
don't want. I just don't want somebody strapped
Yes.
to my back. That's a little weird.
No.
See?
No.
Okay, so we are crossing activities for the staff to do together for bonding.
So Jake got
real
his
quick.
pilot's license.
Some
Congratulations, Jake.
dude jumping out of an airplane, some dude talking to me, yeah, we're about to pull it. No, that's,
No, talking like in your ear.
Y'all
like,
can jump out of
We're
Jake's
about to
plane.
jump out.
no.
Okay.
I used to
Well,
have
Jake,
vivid
great
dreams
job.
of like being a paratrooper drafted in the
Not a
army.
chance. My cousin
It's
does
like
that.
a recurring thing for a long time.
because you ate a rotten Big Mac one time.
No, that was before I ate those.
All right, said all that to say this. Congratulations, Jake Keener.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah, there
We are.
will be people flying with you. I'm probably not one of them until you get to the big jets. I'll get
There
on.
you go.
I'll get in there with you. All right, and we got a birth announcement,
Me
right?
too. I keep pulling it up on my phone if you see me looking away.
Can't ever get to it.
It is, we are super excited to welcome Miss Brooklyn Grace. She was born on March 1st at, okay, this is kind of cool, at 11/11. So she was born on the 1st at 11/11.
All right.
So Jacobson family, congratulations on Miss Brooklyn Grace Jacobson.
All right,
So cool.
we like them new little babies coming in, and then we got some new believers. This is really cool.
Yeah.
So on Sunday we had baptisms 40 and 41, which is pretty amazing given where we are in the year. Brandon and LaShonda Mitchell. And I told this story. I did not ask for permission. I told this story before they got baptized, and he did not come to me later and say, "Hey, you can't." So I think he's
Okay, good, because
with
I
it.
don't know the story. I was downstairs, so I'm excited to
Here's
hear
the
it.
story. So, I think Laura teaches with
They do.
LaShonda. I think that's the relationship. So Laura and Chandler invited them to church. And I can't remember if they came a Sunday or two before this, but the first time I met them was at Deck the Halls.
Okay.
Of all the things for you to come to first, right? So if you don't know
Yeah.
what Deck the Halls is, that's where we take a Wednesday night and we decorate the church for Christmas. So I remember standing on the stage and we're putting up some lights, and I'm like meeting Brandon. I said, "Hey man, what do you do?"
I remember when y'all were having this conversation.
Yeah. He goes, "I'm into logistics, transportation, like routing trucks and all
Yes.
that kind of stuff." About that time, Gabe Shady walks up, and I said, "Well, hey, this is Gabe, and he's big into that too." So I connected them, so they start talking. The next day, he lost his job. The next day, right? So here's a guy who's like, "Man, I'm trying to get my life right, trying to live for the Lord." And I don't know the whole story of all this, but he just kind of has told me in the past, his story is one, every time he really tries to live for the Lord, he just gets kicked in the teeth, right? So here you go. I'm going to start going to church, and bam. So he starts coming to church. He has a wreck.
Yep.
Starts, I mean, just it's been numerous things, right? So here we are, first Sunday of March, a couple weeks ago, and they were at the prayer meeting, but we had the deacon ordination service, and so it was kind of compressed and couldn't bring them up. And so after it's over, everybody's going downstairs to get barbecue. So Laura and Chandler bring LaShonda and Brandon to me, and Laura said, "I told them whatever this church prays for in these prayer meetings, God does. That's why I brought them, right? So, and he needs a job." So I was like, okay, so let's get down here in the altar and let's pray about this. So we get in the altar and we pray, and in my prayer, I just felt the boldness of faith to ask God, give them some news this week, right? So Thursday, I'm on my way to practice with the CR band. He texts me and says, "Hey, I just went for a job interview, got there like 3:30, left at 5:30. I start work tomorrow."
Come on now.
Yeah. So he got the job. He took that step of baptism this week, came to the prayer meeting. I mean, you just talk about just kind of God going, there you go. There you go.
Can I take your story one step further?
Yeah.
You know how we've been talking about the journals? Y'all,
Yes.
I'm telling you, get in a group, okay? Because Laura's in my group.
Okay.
We're going through John, and we just talked about the centurion and how he had faith in people to go before him and help him. And so, because we talked about John, and then we also talked about the comparing stories in Matthew and in Luke about the son being healed also. And so we talked about what does it look like in faith when you feel so bombarded, when you have people go before you. Well, they had elders go before him. And then they had friends go. And so we were talking about that in our journal group about what does it look like when you have to link arms with people to when their faith is really being it's hard. It's hard, hard. And you're being bombarded when you link up with other people and take them by faith into faith. And so I just think that's really cool that Laura and us, we just talked about that in our prayer thing. And then here she is linking up with her friends to go and have prayer for that when they felt like, I have nothing left. I am feeling so distraught. And she's like, nope, I'm taking you where I know faith is existing. And so I just think that's cool that, again, it's another full circle where, guys, community is just, it's amazing. Man. So that, congratulations, Brandon.
Yeah.
I liked how you had expectant prayer, expectant faith. Because when she said last week on the podcast, hey, I got some news. I don't know if I'm not allowed to share, or if I'm allowed to share or not. And you go, oh, does it have to do with a bee?
That's what I thought it was.
Yeah, it is not.
I didn't have any idea what you were talking about, but you had prayed the other day, or on Sunday, and then Tuesday there was some news. You're like, oh, I know God's working.
Yeah, I was thinking, oh, he got a job.
Nope.
But he did on
He
Thursday.
did get a job, and that's awesome. And I'm hoping that next week I'll be able to follow up with what I was actually talking about, because that's going down on Thursday. So see, prayer meetings, working journals. I mean, community, and just I love it. I love it.
That's not a plug
Congratulations.
to get to the prayer meeting. I don't know what is.
Yeah. You know, we do kind of a behind the scenes look here. We do 2 staff meetings a week. So we have a bigger one on Tuesday where we just kind of, here's what's coming up. That's really kind of the planning detail kind of a meeting. And then we do a meeting on Thursday. It lasts no more than 30 minutes. And it's really just asking about 5 questions that we answer for the weekend. But we had our staff meeting on Thursday, and we were sitting there talking just about the baptisms and just about what's happening in the church, the 90-day tithing challenge, just how the Lord's answering some things in that, just seeing some real life change taking place. And, you know, I said in there that God has really moved me as a pastor to lead more from a place of prayer instead of programming. And this has been a shift over the last several years in our church. And I mentioned in there, you know, there's so many things that you mentioned that there's so many things going on right now that we prayed for like a year or 2 ago and had been just asking God to do. And now it's like really coming to fruit. And I mentioned in that, it feels like right now there's really nothing going on in our church that you can explain any other way than God answering prayer.
Yeah.
I had a pastor, I spoke at the pastor's conference a couple weeks ago, and he said, hey, man, I want to have lunch with you. And if you can just kind of put your strategy down on paper. And I said,
prayer.
I was like, I don't.
One word.
Jesus.
Yeah, I was like, I can maybe put a couple things, but I told him, I said, I'm not trying to sound trite, but I'm telling you for real, we have just literally been praying and just doing what God tells us to do next. That's really just kind of it. So I think the Brandon and LaShonda story is another just, golly. I mean, I think there's a lot of reasons people go to church. I like the preaching. I like the music. I like the program. I like the student ministry. I like children's ministry. I mean, all those things have their place, I guess. But I'm going to tell you, man, when you come to a prayer meeting and you prayed and it just, God gave you a job, that's one of those mileposts of faith that goes into your life like nothing else does.
That.
Yeah. So anyway.
You just said that. Well, you just sparked. You know, we prayed for my brother for a long time.
There's another one.
We prayed for years and years and years before we even came here, and just to see his progress. Speaking of job, he got a he's been working at a temp service right now and making decent money and likes people he works with and stuff like that. But we'll have to talk one day about the full circle job that he just secured with somebody that he met through Scott and how that worked out.
Awesome.
And it just happens to be the kind of work that he was familiar with and said that he wanted to do before he even was looking for it. And it's one of those things, like you said, there's no way to explain all the coincidences and all the pieces that fell into place other than just prayer and God just being awesome.
Y'all think about this. Think about Benjamin that we mentioned last week. So we baptized Benjamin. He started a new job on Monday.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
You prayed a pretty bold prayer for me one time, but that's probably a whole different podcast.
Nope.
Not touching it. We'll be right back.
Hey, you just did what the Lord told you to do.
Yes, I did. And maybe we'll reserve that podcast for another day, but you're sitting right there because of that prayer. And it was really just God, hey, this is what I'm going to do, and pray it over him. And he did. So
season
there
5
you
somewhere.
are. Next season. All right. Well, let's kick it over to Stephen Cochran. We've got some announcements, some birthdays, anniversaries, some bowling scores to share with you. All the different things going on at Liberty. So here we go. Stephen Cochran, tell us what's going on.
Hi, my name's Stephen Cochran, and I'll be doing your announcements this morning. Podcasts that we're doing for this month are suggested trends. So while we're in the Colossians Truth Over Trends sermon series, we want you to suggest a topic or a trend or a question, anything that you might be thinking about, even conspiracy theories that you would like to see covered on the Live at Liberty podcast. We're still taking those suggestions. Our Social Sunday for our life groups is going to be coming up on Sunday, March the 22nd. So that's going to be a great time to come in. If you're not part of a life group, get plugged into one, and you get breakfast too. So it works out great for everybody involved. Our Easter Jam Run and Tell It family experience is going to be Sunday, March the 29th, starting at 5 p.m. So keep that in mind. And we're still in the middle of our 90-day tithing challenge, and you've responded great to this little challenge. And the Lord is really providing and really working in our church through this challenge. So I pray that you'll just keep that up. Our CR golf tournament, if you're interested in playing in that, there's a link on the app to go in and register for that. You're doing 4-man teams. It's going to be held on April the 25th with a rain date of May the 2nd. So that's the 2 dates that they've set aside for it. April the 25th is going to be the official date for the tournament. Don't forget our discipleship journals are here as well. So if you'd like to have one of those, the 6x9 journal is $15 and the 8x10 is $20. So Liberty is sending a team to Arad, Romania. That's going to be on July the 10th, and they're going to be helping with a VBS project for the church. It's going to be a church of about 120 people. There's also an opportunity for some light construction projects if we have the manpower, and if you're interested, please join the Romania 26 group on the Liberty app. The cost is going to be between $2,300 and $2,700 per person, and our spring car show will help offset some of the costs, but each person will be responsible for raising the needed funds. For our students, this coming up weekend is going to be Disciple Now. So that's going to start on Friday night, March the 13th through Sunday, March the 15th. If need any more information on that, see Levi or reach out to him, and he'll answer any questions that you have about that. As far as a Liberty sports update in bowling, Liberty 1 and 2 had a rough week, but both teams are going 1-3. Liberty 1 stands at 4-4 for the quarter, and Liberty 2 is at 2-6. So Mike Showtime Sparks continues to dominate the lanes with a high score of 212 and a 530 series. And Father Abraham led Team 2 with a 199. Moving on to our birthdays and anniversaries. There's no anniversaries this week, but our birthdays, we've got on the 11th, we have Maggie James and Burdale Pritchett. On March the 12th for this week, Grant Edwards will be having a birthday. March the 13th is Riley Chavez. March the 14th is Alan Pippin. So March 15th, we've got several on that day. Shane Levain, Derek Lumpkin, Floyd Pope, Eris Williams, and Bryson Williams. So wish all of you a happy birthday as you go throughout this week. Pray that the Lord will be blessing you and keep you safe for another year.
Well, hey, welcome back. We've got a pretty big topic here for you. So I'm going to give you a content warning, not in a explicit content warning, but in long content warning. Y'all, look, there is no way to really understand what we're about to talk about by watching a 30-second video. This is not simple. It involves a lot of people. It involves a massive history. It involves a lot of the Bible. So it's just really, you can't. So hang with it. The good news is now on the podcast, not only you watch on video, but we've got it on iTunes.
It's on Spotify now too.
Okay, cool. Spotify. Nice. So that's the way I do podcasts, kind of listen down the road. So here we go. Christian Zionism, the war in Iran. Do we support Israel politically? Does the Bible tell us to support Israel politically? How does all this fit into prophecies? Kind of the couching of the question. And so this is one of the most prominent issues right now that I see that fits into the category that Paul gave Colossians, diluting the plausible arguments that are deluding the people of God. This one very much fits into that. And one of the reasons that this becomes a plausible argument that deludes the people of God is because I think a lot of our people are watching what people say is in the Bible instead of taking the time themselves to read what is actually in the Bible. And here, when I say read the Bible, I'm not talking about reading one verse. This is what we're about to talk about is what is called the meta-narrative of Scripture. This is the one story that brings the 66 books together. This goes from cover to cover. This is not 3 verses in Ezekiel or a prophecy in Isaiah. This is big stuff. And so it takes a lot of time to cover it. The other one that I would encourage you about is the people in your life that you invite to be experts. And I think a lot of people they assume people that are influential on videos are experts. I think Tucker Carlson is extremely invested in politics. I think he is extremely knowledgeable about history. I think he has knowledge of the Bible. But I think you should also listen to a person, a pastor who has studied these things their entire life, seen a lot of history unfold over 52 years, have been to the place. Bing.
I was gonna say, if there's an advertisement where he's like trying to sell his own personal brand of nicotine pouches in the middle of like talking about these like really deep and complex topics, probably not the first place I would go to form my opinion.
Yeah, and I think, the other side of that, one of the things that and this is kind of an offshoot, one of the things I see that Tucker Carlson does in watching his videos is it's always semantics. He picks people's words so much. And I think sometimes we have to remember these are influencers, and the way you get money is to get clicks. They're not really, I think they're more invested in being paid than they are in maybe informing you of things. And hey, by the way, we're not getting paid for this, right? So,
are you talking about all the major news networks, or are you?
Oh, I'm talking about all of it, man. Golly. So it really, man. I think you need to be listening to people who care about you, right? Who want the best for you. For some reason, Siri just picked up that
they have a
and
little
started
play
recording
on
what I was saying.
words. It's like they're trying to get you to join their clique.
Yeah.
Or clique. So whose clique are you in? Like, are you?
It's funny. Well, we just talked about that. We talk about it all the time with the students about not listening to TikTok theologians and people trying to get clicks because they don't know you.
Doesn't matter.
You. Yeah,
doesn't matter. And hey, I'm going to tell you, you cannot explain a sermon in 30 seconds.
No.
But you can't have a bumper sticker that explains the meaning of life and it be accurate and.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people are trying to do now, even with preaching. Let's just drop our truth bombs. And man, I would just encourage people. This is like. Sometimes people are like, "Oh, that's so good." Just ask a really simple question: what does it actually mean, and how does it fit in the Bible? And you'll probably find it doesn't very much. All right, so let's get to the topic at hand. So let's talk. First of all, let's kind of orient ourselves geographically. The biblical world. When it comes to the Bible, there's no mention of America. No. There's no Bible verse about Mexico. Right? There's no South America. There's no Australia. There's no China. There's no Japan. So not to say
no
that
Cairo.
those no more Cairo. There is Egypt, but there is there's. It's not to say the Bible. It's not to say the Bible's ignorant that those places exist, but that's not the Bible's concern. Right. Is those geographical places. The biblical world, if you kind of look in a map, you're going from North Africa, which is basically Egypt and Ethiopia, which in the Bible is called Put. Which I think is a super cool name. I think Ethiopia ought to go back to Put. I just think that's cool.
A lot less syllables.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a lot easier to spell, right?
Yep.
So you go Egypt and Ethiopia in northern Africa. If you go across the Mediterranean to Europe, which is really Rome, on the boot of Italy, there is kind of the border of that, the Roman Empire, right? The ancient Roman Empire. When you work your way east, then it becomes more increasingly significant. Asia Minor, which is now modern-day Turkey, a lot of the travels of Rome, a lot of the epistles are written to churches that would be in Asia Minor, which is modern day Turkey. Then you keep going east, you get into the Middle East. The northern part of the Middle East is Syria and Lebanon. The southern part, which the Bible calls the Negev, and also Sinai, which would be like modern day Jordan, modern day Saudi Arabia. And then you go further east, then you get into kind of the Mesopotamian world, right? That when you were in school, they called that the Fertile Crescent, right?
I was going to say, you should know that one.
The dawn of civilization.
Yes.
You're giving me an anxiety attack right now. I feel like I'm in the 9th grade.
Quiz papers, right? Yeah, a lot of this is going to feel that way. I'm sorry, but there's no other way
it's okay.
to cover it.
I've healed.
Yeah, there you go. So when you work your way east, you have Iraq, and then you have, which is where Babylon, the ancient city of Babylon, was located. That's where Nebuchadnezzar was from. So, and then that's also where Abraham came from, Ur of the Chaldeans, right? That's modern day Iraq right there. So then you have Abraham travels into Canaan, which is bigger than the borders of Israel. So that would be all kind of that area that's right around Israel right there. So, and then when you work your way further east, you have Iran, however you pronounce that, which is ancient Persia.
I was going to say, it's Persia. It's Esther and all them.
So actually, Iran was not called Iran until 1935. It was called Persia until 1935.
It's a long time to be Persia.
Yeah, it was Persia for a while, like centuries, right? So if you have ever seen the movie 300, which is one of my favorite movies, where Xerxes comes down and they fight, was it the Battle of Thermopylae, which I love Greek history and all that kind of stuff. Xerxes was the Persian king. Yep. The book of Esther.
I say Esther.
Yeah, there you go.
Shout out high school guys in our life group last 2 weeks. I hope you're seeing the connections.
Right, winning Bible trivia right there. All right, so here we go. And then as far as the Bible is concerned, whenever the Bible talks about northwest, north, south, east, or west, Jerusalem is the center of the world. So Israel is the center of the biblical world, not America. Israel. Everybody needs to get that.
Can you say that again?
Not America. Not America, right? The center of the biblical world is Israel. That is the Bible's primary concern, not only in geography, but also in the story. Not America, Israel. All right. So now let's talk about the genealogy. As we know in the book of Genesis, you have all these families that kind of begin to populate the earth. Be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, right? So Abraham is called to begin a nation of people in Canaan. So he makes his journey over there. 3 really important scriptures that have the covenants God made to Abraham.
Go talk to your doc kids. They know him, and they're studying the genealogy of Jesus right now.
This is amazing. Even a better reason to come to Liberty, right? So you got Genesis 12, Genesis 15, Genesis 14. If you're watching these videos on this subject and you don't read Genesis 12, 15, and 17, shame on you, right? You've got to read that. So Abraham has 2 sons. One, he has Ishmael through Hagar. We remember the story there. He knew that God's supposed to give him a son, but he's in his old age. And so he does what probably all of his uncles and his granddad and they used to do in Ur of the Chaldeans. We'll just take the handmaid and the handmaid will have a child, right? So he goes back into default mode. He has Ishmael, who he loves, right? And who, you know, they kind of get cast out, which I think is pretty amazing. That Hagar goes out there and prays because she's been forgotten. God answers her.
And Lord Caesar, he said.
Yeah. And so the Lord kind of tells her, hey, Ishmael will have a future, right? He will be the people who come from him will be a wild donkey of a man, right? And that kind of, and I'm going to talk about this in a moment. You can't really trace all the Arab states and peoples in the Middle East back to Ishmael and Esau. But I think the biblical prophecy and influence of those things is there. So the conflict kind of goes into that. So so anyway, you have Ishmael through Hagar. Ishmael influences a lot of the Arabic nations. That would be the Jordanians, that would be the Arabs, that would be the Saudis, that would be the Arabs in Iraq and Iran. And again, there's a lot of ethnic mixing, so I'm not telling you it's a direct tracing, but there's a lot of influences there. And then you have Isaac through Sarah, who carries the promise of the Messiah and the nation, right? So then the story develops, and Isaac has twins, Esau and Jacob. So Esau becomes the Edomites, the Jordanians. They have an influence in the Joshua story, but they're kind of like Ishmael in that they just become more of the ethnic soup that is the Middle East. And again, we'll talk about more of that in a moment. Jacob is renamed Israel, and he has 12 sons. Those 12 sons, there's a little bit of a caveat in there with Levi, who gets no land.
Sorry.
Sorry,
Womp,
bud.
womp.
He got to bring some priests into it. It's all
Yeah,
right.
man, you just
Round 2. You got
He's a
to
pretty
do that.
wild dude. Yeah, there's some crazy stories.
just
in there
be about the ministry, man. You get no land. Sorry, bro. Right.
good.
So, and then Joseph is segmented into two different tribes, but basically Jacob has 12 sons. These become the 12 tribes of Israel. And you've got to understand from cover to cover, the Bible is concerned with how God will fulfill his promises to Abraham, to Isaac, to Jacob, and later to David, right? That is the biblical story of how it all holds together. Now, let's talk about the modern map. Let's take all that and bring it into modern day when you're watching the news and all the things that are going on. The Middle East is less driven by lineage, and it's more driven by ideology. Some very strong ideologies. Islam, Judaism, and a lot of Christian interest. Now, let's say this. Even within Islam, it's kind of like, I guess people are people no matter what religion you are.
100%.
There are independent Baptists, there are Southern Baptists, there are Northern Baptists, there are Calvinistic Baptists, there are not as Calvinistic Baptists, there are Armenian
There are
Baptists,
Bapticostals.
there are Free Will Baptists, there are Bapticostals, yeah, they're,
Tambourine rings.
you know, in
No judgment.
in Protestantism,
Nothing wrong with a little flag every now and then.
how many different Protestant things, you know what I'm saying? Even within Islam, there's a lot of different segments and a lot of the conflicts that you see even in, especially like if you go back to Iraq, there were different ideologies within Islam that were vying for control of that country. You're going to see that happen in Iran even now. So you have a lot of strong ideology there. Now, geopolitics, it's about oil. There's a lot of energy for the world in natural gas and oil that is in that part of the world. And here's the other interesting thing going back to ancient times. Let's bring this into Murray County terms.
Oh, bless.
Come on.
Well, I was
Okay.
fixing to say, if you're going to say oil around here, you got to say oil.
Oil is oil, right? But talking about the ancient world, you know, everybody in Murray County, right down the road here, we have this place called Central, right? That's where 225 and Highway 76 intersect. And then a little
Okay, I
bit
know what
further
you're saying.
down, you have alternate 52 that intersects 225. It's like the middle of Murray County is in this little place down here called Central. Everybody has to go through it.
Okay.
The Middle East is to, or Israel and all of these things is to the Middle East what Central is to Murray
I
County.
feel like so many. I feel like so many people just went.
Now I get it.
There it is.
Yeah.
The
For all
middle-
my Floridians that attend the church, he's talking I-4. That's
Yeah,
what he's
there you
talking
go,
about.
man. If you go back to the movement of all the empires, if you go back to the ancient world conflicts, it always walks through the Middle East, through the corridor of Israel. I mean, that Middle East brings together Asia, Europe, and Africa, right? It is the central part of the world.
It's almost like the biblical narrative is centralized on this place that's really.
That is the center of the world.
Whoa.
Yes, there you go. Yeah, it's a pretty important place. Yeah.
Love it.
For your
Love it.
consideration. All right, so here's the other thing. Historically, this has been a very violent place.
Yeah.
A lot of conquering, a lot of movements, all those sorts of things. So when you trace the movements of the peoples, the history of the nations, the ancestries, and you're trying to keep score through the Babylonians, the Assyrians, the Persians, the Greeks, the Romans, the Byzantines, the Islamic Caliphates, the Crusades, and the Ottoman Empire.
So the Old Testament. Okay, got it.
No, that's all the way up through modern history.
That's all the way. The Ottoman Empire goes all the way into the early 1900s, right? I mean, so we're talking about millennia of time, lots of movements of people. And here's the most interesting thing about this entire thing. In all of that, there has been one identity of a people that has remained having an identity in all the movements of the nations. That's the Jews. That's and I heard someone say one time one of the proofs that they felt like one of the most abundant proofs that the Bible is true is the preservation of the Jews and the existence of the nation of Israel. And if you really just think about how all the nations have been absorbed and lost, even go back as strong as the Roman Empire was.
Yeah.
It didn't endure time.
Yeah.
Dude, I just found out that Iran was Persia up until like a couple years ago, like just now. So
Yeah.
What's
There you
even
go.
cool too is like we've been talking with the kids about how strong that tradition is, because many of these people wouldn't have been able to write. They wouldn't have been able to. It's all through word of mouth. It's all through tradition. It's all through passing down what meant so much to them and preserving that. And I just think that's so cool, because I could tell you a story and then you tell Levi and it's like you miss stuff or whatever. And I just think that God is so great that he is able to see his people, but also keep that story alive and in truth. Kind of like what he likes to call himself and John going through the truth. But I just think that's remarkable that you have so many people who would not have had access to the Bible or to the internet or any of these things. And yet that story, that tapestry is one thread.
Yeah.
It is consistent. So it's really neat.
Yeah, and I think this is a great moment to kind of jump on like one of the really hot topics of like around this conversation, which like if you have watched the Tucker Carlson thing, I know there's like what was the original interview that he did? It not the Huckabee one. What was
Ted
the other?
Cruz.
Yeah, Ted Cruz, where
Yeah.
they argued back and forth, and he tried to bait him into this and that. But like for instance, Tucker is always on this thing about, well, what does it mean that that Israel has a right to exist? Does everybody else not have a right to exist? And just picking apart the definitions and just, I think the motive is not super pure there. It's obviously to cause controversy,
Right.
and maybe sell some nicotine pouches, but like, or both. But I think what a lot of people don't see on sort of either sides of the argument when their purpose is to argue about this. And I think a lot of people do just want to understand, which is hopefully why they're watching this podcast right now, is there is a spiritual and biblical precedent to the existence of Israel. And I think that's what, like right to exist aside, I mean, we tend to think about things like that through like human means and modern nations and how and why they came to be and things like that. But when you peel all that away, it's like God has an enduring purpose and plan for Israel.
And don't you think like then our opinions are flawed if we're constantly getting new information and we can change based off of that new information? So okay, so you're changing your new research, you're getting new information. We just learned about Persia, I mean, constantly. So it's being flawed in a sense. But then what we're coming back to is the Bible's consistent. There is a consistency here with that foundation. So why is our rhythm not, well, what does the Bible say about this? Why is our rhythm, well, let me Google it or AI or get on TikTok and see what they say? So I'm just really interested in seeing, because even me as just another person researching and asking questions, how do we help our rhythm change from biblical truth and biblical worldview and helping to not just go with what's easy?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Okay.
And I think a lot of people ignore history. So let's go back to that point I just made, man. Israel exists despite having antagonistic neighbors all the way around them.
Yeah.
I think especially when we're about to get into this, the war in Gaza, everybody was talking about genocide. There's been no nation on earth, going back to even biblical stories, that has had more attempted genocide and persecution to eradicate those people than the Jews.
Yeah.
They have been scattered around the world. They have been persecuted like no other, yet they continue to exist, knowing their history, knowing their lineage, all those different things. And man, so talking about Egypt, right? when you go into the Egypt Museum, so it's got like King Tut's mask and all that different stuff. There is a statue of Ramses that they say that stood in his palace or whatever, and you're thinking, dude, that thing had frogs on it.
Yeah.
When the plagues are going
He's
on.
talking about Moses, guys.
Right.
He's in Exodus.
And when you're standing there and you're looking at that and going, if that truly was, if that's a statue Ramses had, and man, this is like happening, that went through the plagues. And then you look at America and you're like, well, hey, we're turning 250, right? So
We got the Liberty Bell.
Yeah.
I've been to Colonial Williamsburg. Man, the things in that part of the world are old. I mean, really, really old. So, yeah, so let's keep perspective here. All right, so now let's ask a question. Who are the Palestinians? And this is where it gets a little bit complicated. So the Palestinians genetically share characteristics with populations of Europe, Central Asia, go back to the Hellenistic period, the Romans, the Crusaders. The Palestinians they are cousins with almost every group in the Middle East, with African populations. And here's what's really interesting about the Palestinians. They even have genetic links to the Jews, right?
yeah.
So,
Well, if it's all right there and go forth and
It's
multiply,
the
I mean,
the crossroads of the world, like from Africa and Europe and Asia. And
yeah,
go
if
through
you
those.
read, I mean, let's go back to the Good Samaritan story. We know that there is those half, for lack of a better term, those half-breed populations that there was a very much antagonism against that, which is what makes that story so remarkable in the
woman
Bible.
at the well, Samaritan, going through.
So, man,
Samaritan
I said all that to just emphasize that part of the world. We talk about America as a melting pot. The Middle East is very much a melting pot of centuries of people movements and all these sorts of things. So, genetically, the Palestinians are kind of a mixed bag of nations. In biblical times, that place was called Philistia. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah.
Boom, boom,
The
boom.
Philistines, right? Now, the Palestinians are not, it's hard, you can't link them back to the Philistines. But it's interesting how much of that, there's these sea coastal people that are a thorn in the side of Israel, and there's this goes back to the Ishmael, Edomite, Esau kind of a thing, always that antagonism that God said was going to be there. So under Hadrian, Hadrian is actually the one that brought the Latin name from Philistia and called it Palestine. So that's not an ancient development that area is called Palestine. And then it kind of lost that title, and the British brought it back in 1917, okay? So the modern Palestinians, and let me say this, we always talk about who has a right to the land. The modern Palestinians are not indigenous to that land.
Sure.
It's a lot of sea people, a lot of people who came in to raid Israel through 1800 to 1200 BC and settled there, and those kind of things. So culturally, the Palestinians have taken on the identity of whoever occupied the land at the time. An interesting note, when Muslim armies entered Palestine in 643 AD, the most prominent ideology was Christianity. Really interesting.
So my degree is in foreign language and literature, right? So I thought I was going to be a Spanish teacher before God had his sense of humor with my life path. But even studying, Spain, you study, history and art and movies and all that stuff. And it's crazy to see. It's right across the way from North Africa, and the Reinos Católicos, the Catholic kings, and the
That
Moors.
sounds so cool.
Yeah, thanks. And
Can you say it again?
you can say anything in Spanish and make it sound like cool and romantic.
I would believe you.
But running joke, ask Leanne later, is funny. I'm not romantic at all, but sometimes anyway.
Catholic kings.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see the history even of Spain, which you think Spanish very much one kind of culture, but it's not. Man, there have been wars, and so the Moors came across from North Africa and took almost all the way up to the top of Spain, and so it was all taken over, and a lot of Islam and caliphates and things like that, and there were battles in the Crusades and stuff like that. And even in southern Spain now, there's so much of that culture, architecture, everything. Whoever was in charge, that's what everything was like.
Exactly.
And so I just tying all that together is crazy.
And here's where we've kind of gotten into this revisionism that makes intellectually what you see in the videos dishonest. Let's go to the Crusades. There's a lot of critical things about the Crusades, and there needs to be. That was not a good motive, and I don't think the Crusades was the will of God, right? But if you go back and you study the history of the Crusades and also of the Islamic movements of taking over that area, you may not like that history, but you can't ignore it.
Exactly.
It influences that. It shapes the story, right, wrong, or indifferent. What's going on. And I think now we've got this mentality of, if it was racist, if it was genocide, if it was not a history I agree with, I'm not even going to acknowledge it. And that's not intellectual at all.
Because they're so used to hitting the delete button and it disappears.
Well, if you hear it from a 23-year-old TikToker, it's got to be true. I mean, and accurate.
Slavery is horrible in the history of America, but it's part of the history of America.
Well, and that's
right?
why so many people just take the stupid angle of like, well, slavery was in the Bible, so the Bible must condone this. It's like
Not the same.
The Bible is giving an honest account and a picture of the time.
We talked to Zoe about descriptive Bible passages and prescriptive Bible passages. When it talks about taking extra wives, that's a description of something that happened, not a prescription of what you should do.
Just because
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, so let's kind of kick back to this, right? Man, we could go all day on this kind of stuff. So when the Muslim armies entered Palestine in 643, there was a very diverse society, predominantly Christian, with a lot of Jewish population in that area. The next 100 years significantly shaped that region under the Muslim caliphates, Arabic dominance. The Dome of the Rock that is now on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem was finished in 691 AD.
Been there.
Oh, there you go. Cool. Right. Ding. Did you get a cup?
I did not get a cup, but I took a rock.
Is there? Delete.
I was going to say, speak of delete button.
I made it through security, so it's okay.
I don't know what the
That's pretty
statute
cool.
of limitations is on that.
It was very
Don't
sharp. It was
take
very
the
sharp.
rocks.
So I was like, how can I bend down and get this?
I'm trying not to make a
I'm just
Okay,
tying my
so
shoe.
I
thou
have a
shalt
part.
not steal. That's one you have to pay attention to.
The part of the Mount of David, right there.
It's
All right.
it's in the cabinet with my coffee stuff. Right now.
So then you had a solidifying of Islamic influence under the Ottoman Empire that goes from 1299 until 1922.
That's like
Centuries.
my
Yeah.
grandma. Like, we're not talking a long time ago. We're talking,
Yep.
you knew people in 1922.
And as we are moving to create a state of Israel in the 1940s, wasn't it?
47.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, post World War II, you're trying to.
I think it was official in 48. Right?
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. So in the 1930s, kind of as a movement toward that, it's Great Britain who solidified the national identity of the Palestinians. So you have this melting pot of people. We're going to call them Palestinians. And that's kind of where we have the identity and the lingo that we have today was formed in the 1930s. All right. So when you're talking about the Palestinians, you're not talking about an ethnic or a national identity in the same way that you would the Chinese or the English or Hispanics or Africans. This is not like saying Egyptians or Americans or Israelites, right? This is a people who've always had a cultural identity and whoever was conquering the land in the time. Their whole history, they've been settling, been absorbed, been bringing in new people. But here's the key. Throughout their history, especially modern history, they've always been isolated. We're going to keep you right here. And that's what I want to kind of get into right here. So as people kind of investigate, here's 3 questions I would encourage you to do some history lesson on. How is the government of Palestine organized? I'm just going to throw this, we don't have to talk about this right now. Just research it. What's the government like? So we are a democratic republic. You have monarchies. You have what is Palestine? I just encourage people to look that up. Who's the ruler? When's the last time you heard him give a speech? Well, when's the last time he's on the world stage? Right? Who rules Palestine? Right? And what is their chief export or economic engine? Like these are questions for national identity. When you start to investigate that, you're going to find some really interesting things. Here's something. So let's go into that last one right there. What's their chief export or economic engine? And this is what's interesting. I learned this, what I'm about to share with you, in a Jewish synagogue. All right. So here you go. The chief buyer of Palestinian goods is Israel. 85% of the exports of Palestine go to Israel. Before the October the 7th war in 2023, as many as 200,000 Palestinians worked in Israel. Now, those permits were revoked, obviously, because of the war, right? Since the beginning of the war in Gaza, Israel has shipped 200 million tons of humanitarian aid into Gaza since May of 2025, which is just months ago. Yeah. 10,000 aid trucks have entered into Gaza, with approximately 80% carrying food, 5,000 tons of baby food, more than 2,500 tons of medical supply. Airdrops by 12 countries have delivered more than 2,300 food packages and distributed to serve over 2.2 million people weekly food distribution in Gaza, in Palestine, right? You don't see that on the news. Yeah. Now, let's get into the rulers. So you've had the PLO, which is called the Palestinian Liberation Organization. You've had the Palestinian Authority. Now you have Hamas, who hasn't had an election in 15 years. Okay? So it's an authoritarian regime that manipulates aid, that runs on the foreign aid of nations. The chief contributor to Hamas, Iran, $100 million a year, right? So that's how they do this. Now, here's what a lot of the things you don't see on the news. Hamas takes a lot of the humanitarian aid and the infrastructure stuff and uses it for terroristic activity, building tunnels, trying to tunnel into Israel. Yep. They will take water pipes and sewer pipes and use it for missiles. They'll cut off the water to parts of the city because they need that material in order to make more weapons. So Hamas will use ambulances to shield the transportation of terrorists. They use the population as human shields. This is why you're seeing the videos on TikTok. They're like, Israel's is enacting genocide. They're bombing a hospital. They're bombing a school. The reason for that is it's almost impossible to strike their military and not hit near a humanitarian aid place because they shield the terrorists inside they inside the schools, behind the people. And here's the thing: they want that publicity of look at all these innocent people.
They
that
understand imagery. Their PR is very, very useful tool for them.
Yeah, there you go. So how did all this start? It's been going on for centuries. But what's the most recent conflict? October the 7th, 2023, Hamas sent terrorists into Israel to attack festivals, to sack small border villages, and capture people. 1,200 people were killed that day. That's the most people killed as a persecution against Israel since the Holocaust in a single day.
They're crazy. Like, not to say go watch videos and stuff like that, but there are crazy videos of like the music festival where people are like paratrooping in.
Yeah. It's horrible, taking women, it's horrible. 251 people are taken hostage. There is mounds of evidence. Go beyond the TikTok videos. There's mounds of evidence that Hamas will use the facilities designated for the UN to shield terrorism, to cache weapons. They do the same kind of thing in schools. And so there's very much a propaganda campaign that you've got to kind of cut through and at least, hey, I just encourage people, see the other side.
Yeah.
At least hear the argument from the other side.
Well, and think about just the other side's position too. I mean, like you are fighting against someone that has no regard for life, no regard for morality or anything. And so that makes a very difficult playing field when you yourself are trying to preserve life and trying to tactfully go about dismantling this horrible organization that just doesn't care whether even they themselves live or die for their own cause.
Ask this question. Why don't the Palestinians just move to Egypt? Why don't they just move to Jordan? Why don't they just move to Lebanon? Here's the reason. They won't let them. And I talked about being isolated. Now, I'm about to say something, and here's where you got to parse the statement of what I'm about to say. Let me build on a metaphor. So I went to seminary in New Orleans, right? We've all been to cities that have large homeless populations, right? Even Dalton, Georgia has a pretty large homeless population. Here's what's interesting that I see happening with homeless populations. Everybody just endures them until somebody needs them politically for leverage. Then all of a sudden we get concerned about the homeless and what we're going to do for the homeless and around election seasons and all this kind of stuff. You see that, especially in these major cities. Well, what about the homeless? And we're going to do this for the homeless and all this kind of stuff. I see the Palestinians on the geopolitical stage treated very much like the homeless are treated in major cities in America. I'm not saying they're homeless. I'm saying that many times the Palestinians are used as political leverage. Nobody cares about them until they want to care about them to achieve another end.
But buzzwords to get people to move how you want them to. Yeah.
Back to your clickbait stuff.
And then
that you
you
guys were
got
talking about
universities in America holding protests and chanting things they don't even understand.
Absolutely. There you go. All right. So now let's get into why do we support Israel? Because, man, there are some awful things going on in Gaza. You can't deny that, right? So these videos, and obviously I need to go watch the Huckabee one because I haven't seen this one.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, and I don't think it accomplishes a whole lot other than just depending on kind of what opinion you hold going into it, just making you more irritated after 2.5 hours.
So let me make a personal observation. I could be right or wrong in this, but somebody can correct me if I'm wrong and give me more perspective on it. So the way I kind of got sucked into this is, so I mentor a lot of young men in Bible study groups and our man church group, all that kind of stuff. I have had an increasingly number of 20-year-olds, like 20-ish. We're right out of high school. Now we're kind of caring about the world, who will come up to me and ask, why do we biblically support Israel? Aren't they? And they start regurgitating. And I look at them and I say, man, all you're doing is tell me something in a video. Yep. What have you read? What have you studied? And this is where I may be wrong in this, but I think a lot of it, even in the influencers, is regurgitating a lot of Tucker Carlson's take on this. That may be oversimplifying the issue.
Well, I think Tucker appeals to people who are incredibly patriotic and, I mean, that at the forefront of their minds is the America first.
There's a pastor years ago, a guy named Shane Claiborne, who wrote a lot of books, a lot of people influential. And I know, like, that's where I kind of first heard this was from him. But he's and this would kind of go back to my seminary days. He just kind of represented, but I don't really think those young men who come to me know who Shane Claiborne is. I really do think it comes much from the Tucker Carlson kind of videos, and then everybody regurgitates that, right?
And it's so complicated and so complex too. And from a standpoint of like wanting to, like, I look at my family as like, okay, God bless me with my family. I have a wife, I have 2 girls, and my first ministry is to take care of them, provide for them, lead them well. And I understand, being patriotic and caring about your country and not wanting to see your country taken advantage of. But I don't think that that's necessarily the end to what's actually going on. But that's where people stop, and that's where people get angry, and they don't hear anything after that. They don't research anything after just scrolling through the videos of like, okay, well, I should just be mad that, my country has this problem, yet we're concerned about this simultaneously.
And then let's get into labels, right? So the new buzzword is Christian Zionism. I've never heard that until recently. And if I ever heard it, it represented a very fringe, very small group of people. But one of the things that's happening right now is this Christian Zionist word is being applied broadly to a lot of people that really don't fit. And this is what I really want to speak to right here. So Christian Zionism, they say, is a religious ideology in which certain things in the world are influenced to hasten the return of Christ. That's kind of a simplified way of putting it now. And they say that there's a lot of legislators in Washington, D.C. who are Christian Zionists. Now, my first issue with that is,
Start with Christian.
I really don't know how much the legislators in D.C. are reading the Bible to influence legislation, because if they are, they're not reading the same Bible that I do, right?
Hermeneutics might be a little
A verse a day.
I think there are plenty of Christian people in the legislation, but I think as far as influencing modern day legislation, I'm not really sure the Bible. I'm not really sure we're standing in Congress going, well, the Bible says. So I think again, that's a small label painting with a broad brush. It blames dispensationalism. These are dispensationalists, and so let me put this here. If you want to put me in a camp, I'm dispensational, which means I believe there's different dispensations of the Bible that explain what God is doing in his activity to save the world at that time. But I don't see, let me say it like this. I don't see anything in the Bible dispensational, and I don't really know any dispensationalist in any conversation I've ever had, any reading I've ever done, any sermon I've ever heard, where a true dispensationalist goes, let's do this in order to hasten the return of Christ.
So that's what I was thinking. Whenever you see stuff in the Bible that actually is part of God's grand plan, it's not what you expect. You know what I mean? Like Abraham, Isaac, Ishmael. There's no way that Abraham thought. I mean, it was already not a smart move to go with Hagar and have a son outside of the promise. But I'm sure he had no idea the ramifications of the future of what that would be like, or when there's a trade of a birthright for a bowl of soup. You know, I'm sure there's no idea. So to say I'm going to twist God's arm, I'm going to make Christ come back sooner by doing X, Y, or Z. It's not biblical.
That mentality has never been a part of any of the study, again, sermons. Okay, now here's what a person do. They're going to flip up a Greg Locke video where Greg Locke says, we're going to blow up the Temple Mount and bring back, and I'll just tell y'all this right here. I don't think Greg Locke represents dispensationalism. Personally, I would not listen to Greg Locke if he gave me directions to the gas station. All right, so it's so fringe. And I think this is where people take that and paint broad brush everybody else, where there's no nuance, there's no caveat, there's no deliberation, discernment, right? All right. Yeah. Let's go Pete Hegseth. They use Pete Hegseth as something he said, and I just saw a very small clip. I'd like to see the bigger part. But if the small clip represents that Pete Hegseth is speaking for dispensationalists, he's wrong. He said something about blowing up the Temple Mount, hastening the return of Christ. That's not dispensationalism, right?
It's just amazing how when some people just get a taste of power or influence, like just the grandiose nature that they think they take on, as if they can literally control the timeline of the Lord. I mean,
but if you think about
in
it,
his name,
it's not
crazy.
biblical, it's publicity.
Yeah.
And we just talked about that earlier. If it's publicity, then how can we get more people? How can we influence more people? How can we get them to jump on our bandwagon? Oh, let's throw a Bible verse out there. And they use that to persuade. And then all of a sudden it is the end of the world. And now we do believe it. And if your faith is going to be shallow, then, and you're not doing your research and you're not getting into the word, you're going to believe that little Bible verse, because if you don't understand it, then they can use it. And so I would just,
And I'm not going to speak for Tucker Carlson here. I haven't investigated this thoroughly, but I think Tucker Carlson would fit into this, given some of the things I heard him say. But there is a movement, and I have heard about this all the way through my study. It's called replacement theology, where Israel is replaced by the church. Now the church is the true Israel. I don't think that's true, and I'm going to tell you why here in just a few moments. So the Tucker Carlson, Ted Cruz video, he asked the question. Ted Cruz brings up the verse, talking to Abraham. I will bless, for those who bless you, I'll bless them. Those who curse you, I'll curse them. And Ted Cruz doesn't know where that is in the Bible. It's actually Genesis 12:3. Okay. So God is giving him that promise. Now, what does that mean? Does that verse mean that we carte blanche support Israel on every single thing they do? And the answer to that is no. This is where the videos give you a hot take and they lack nuance in conversation. They really don't represent a person who's, and here's why. So I would see that you could have the same opinions, the same hopes, the same feelings about Israel that God did, that Jesus did. Jesus had great hope for Israel. He loved the nation. The Messiah came to them first.
He wept over Israel.
He wanted them to repent of the religiosity, the Pharisaical legalism that was pervasive in the day. It grieved God's heart, what was going on in Israel. But yet they hold to this identity and this promise for this people. God critiqued the kings. Read Isaiah, the Christmas story. Ahaz. I mean, God comes to him and basically through the prophet Isaiah says, don't make an alliance with all these other nations. Trust me. And Ahaz like, I think I'll choose this over.
The thing I can see.
Like, our father's Abraham, and Jesus, like, your father's the devil.
And then we have this child who is born, Emmanuel, and all that. You know, it's kind of, again, go back and read the Bible to what's really going on, not just in a Bible verse. God condemned unrighteous kings. I think you can be biblical. I think you can be supportive of Israel. I think you still fall within, I'm going to bless Israel, not curse Israel by going, you know what? That is an unbiblical thing the rulers of Israel are doing right now.
Well, and the best way that you can bless Israel is pray for Israel. I mean, how many times do we tend to just jump on and become, again, just experts on an issue on social media instead of our first reaction being to just pray?
What is that saying? Do you pray about it as much as you complain about it?
And boy, right here is a question you can ask to see kind of where you fall in this. Is your attitude toward Israel more like Tucker Carlson's or the Apostle Paul? Because you really don't, and Tucker Carlson is very much America first and all this kind of stuff, and that's why I kind of set up the beginning of the episode, the Bible's concern is not America first. And if that's Tucker Carlson's political leaning, that's world politics, fine, whatever. I mean, just flesh that out in your own place. But the attitude of Paul is represented in Romans 9 through 11. I would really encourage people to read Romans 9 through 11, and it kind of helps you understand the church has not replaced Israel. The church has actually been grafted into all the promises and covenants that God gave Israel. Romans 9, 4, and 5 says this, they are Israelites, and to them belong adoption, the glory, the covenants, the giving of the law, the worship, the promises. To them belong the patriarchs. From their race, according to the flesh, is the Christ. We don't have salvation without the Jews. I mean, that's our story, is we have to love them, appreciate them. Romans 11, 1 and 2 asks the question explicitly, has God rejected his people?
Certainly
the answer, meganoito, by no means, right? So we have to be really, really careful not to reject or despise Israel or to say that the church has replaced them. Romans 11, 17 through 18 warns us that if we despise them, hey, you who were grafted into the root, man, he can cut you right back off, right?
The Apostle Paul, I mean, he's the apostle to the Gentiles, and you still hear him say things like, man, I would trade places with them. I wish that I could be a curse so that they could be saved. Like to have that attitude of they need Jesus, right? The world is blessed through the nation of Israel because the Messiah came through the Jewish people. And Paul, even though he's assigned by God to the Gentiles, has such a heart for them because they're his countrymen, so he can understand, want to be patriotic, but also they're God's people.
Paul is a perfect example of what Genesis 12:3 means in blessing Israel. He didn't carte blanche approve them of where they were spiritually, politically, in any way, shape, or form. He sure didn't like where they were in the Roman world being oppressed at the time, right, and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, they were his countrymen, and he loved them, and he wanted them to turn to Christ. And so I think Paul is the perfect example of how you can take a position with nuance, remain biblical, and you're blessing in Israel and not rejecting Israel. So one of the passages that I hear in this replacement theology a lot is Galatians chapter 3, verse 28, where it says that in Christ there's neither Jew nor Greek, right? Free nor slave.
Male nor female.
Male nor female. All right. Now, if you use that verse to say there really is no more Israel, then you also have to use that verse to say there's really no more male or female.
Which some people do.
That is not what that verse is saying. He's talking about favoritism in Christ. He's not talking about identities of sexes or nations, or he's not saying that all of that has been erased. So, boy, you talk about plucking a verse and making it sound good on a video, not really understanding what it is. So read Romans 9 through 11, and I would encourage you that you will see right there in Romans 11, 25 and 26, God still has a plan for Israel.
Yeah.
They are very much a factor in the end. And if you really want to understand the Bible, the things that are going to happen in the end do not center on America. They center on Israel. All right? So we have to be careful to investigate. One of the young men came to me, and 3 times he has used these words when we're talking about this. But have you read the Talmud? Have you read the Talmud? So
A few times, yeah.
okay, I thought, and hey, listen, he's probably going to watch this and go, he's talking about me, and I think he would laugh too. I taught him in high school. I couldn't get him to read what I wanted him to read in high school. I promise you, he hasn't read the Talmud. All right, so the reason I say that,
TikTok has.
Have you read To Kill a Mockingbird?
I know.
yeah, have you read the Talmud? You haven't either, right? The Talmud was written over a span of 300 years between 3rd and 5th century AD. It is oral law, it is commentary, it is recordings of legal proceedings, and it is recordings of debates. It is 20 volumes, over 5,400 pages. I don't know anybody other than a Jewish scholar who's probably read the Talmud, right?
Yeah, that's like a bill in Congress, like saying that. Did you read every part of the big beautiful bill?
Let me put this in modern cultural terms. That's way longer than Harry Potter. All right, so maybe if I can give.
I still haven't read all those, and I got them in the 3rd grade.
Oh man! All right, so. Now, here's the deal. He brings it up and says that it calls for the killing and condemnation of Gentiles. And there are some videos that bring that about. Now, I think I've got my research right. I checked several sources on this. So remember, I said the Talmud is recordings of debates, legal proceedings, commentaries, all these kind of things. It was written at a time of heavy Jewish persecution.
Sure.
So it is recording things people say. Not necessarily prescriptive on what ought to be done. So let's bring this. So it says, hey, the Talmud tells them to kill Gentiles. Here's my question to you. Who is more into killing innocent people right now around the world? Hey, look at it. It sure ain't Israel, right? I mean, Iran is a terrorist state that finances terrorism all over. I mean, come on. If you want to put your meat and potatoes into what's actually happening. So, right? So here's the deal. In 5,400 pages in 5 volumes, the statements, it's true that there are some statements about eradicating the Gentiles. It's 5 statements in 5,400 pages.
And in that, is that in some like rabbinical midrash, like some conversations between 2 opposing rabbis or something like that?
The conversation context is really important. Again, it's not prescriptive. It is descriptive of somebody saying this in a debate.
Okay.
Just like the Bible records some things that God would not have us to do, but he's telling you, hey, this person said this, right? So very much in the same way. So, man, let's just really be intellectually honest. So let's land the plane somewhere. We got to get off here because people are like, man, this is lasting all day. So number 1 is this: Israel is central to the Bible. America is not. That's just the truth. God will fulfill his covenants to Abraham, to David, and to Israel. The Bible is clear about that. The Bible is not clear on a lot of specifics on how all this will happen. Somebody might ask, is the war in Iran part of prophecy? Well, yeah, in the sense of there's wars and rumors of wars. Is this the end of it? Maybe. You don't know, right? So that's even why I would go back to saying, somebody who says a dispensationalist wants to blow up the Temple Mount and become a Christian Zionist, I don't know if you went over and blew up the Temple Mount right now that it would hasten the return of Christ. Yeah. No man knows the times or the seasons. That's in the Lord's hands, not ours, right?
Do you know what I don't hear in all these conversations? I hear Israel and I hear, America, and I don't hear Jesus, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not, America's not the focus. And Israel is a big part of it, but the focus is Jesus.
Yeah.
The focus is King Jesus.
Redemptive history.
Yeah.
What is he doing to save people from their sin?
The covenant to Adam is about the Messiah who's coming. The covenant to Abraham, he does talk to him, about giving him descendants, and he does talk to him about, giving him land. But it's in that redemptive history. It's not just geopolitical. It's not just economic. It's not just clickbait and whatever. Like, we got to get back to Jesus, because if Jesus isn't in the conversation, then you're missing it no matter what it is. Right?
And put it in this context right here, because it's part of human history. One of the reasons they rejected Jesus is because politically he would not do what they thought he should do to fix the world.
Right.
Instead of inciting a revolt, instead of blowing up the Temple Mount or whatever you would do as a Christian Zionist now.
It's almost like people are still doing the same thing.
There's nothing new under the sun, right? Instead of doing all that, where the rub really came is, instead of Jesus gathering all these people and telling them, here's how we're going to overthrow Rome, he said, the kingdom of heaven comes like this. Blessed are those who mourn. They'll be comforted. Blessed are the poor in spirit. That, theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And that was like, what? Yeah, repentance, faith, not revolt. So, we have to land in that place, right?
He didn't go to kick the Romans out of power. He went to the temple. He wept over Jerusalem and said, how many times have I wished to gather you under my wings like a mother hen, and you wouldn't have me. It's not about what everybody thinks it's about all the time.
If you want to know anything about prophecy, if you really read the Bible, you will see that peace deals are really important to all this. Not really conflict, but man, when you hear peace deals, that's what you really need to pay attention to. Instead of geopolitics, be more interested in salvation history, more interested in the gospel, more interested in repenting of sin, turning to Christ, walking with him every single day. And I would just end right here. Instead of watching videos, please read the Bible. Don't just take what somebody says the Bible says in a video. Read it for yourself. And to really understand this, I go back to my first statement. This is the story cover to cover. You can't pluck and pick a verse. You got to see the whole thing. So I've said a lot. Anything y'all want to kind of close out with?
Can I piggyback on that? Because parents, if you have access to this, your kids have access to this. And I think gone are the days of like, oh, that's not appropriate for us to talk about. But information is everywhere now for them. And if your kid has TikTok, they can get these videos too. And I know that they're like, oh, we have parental control. Does your kid's friend have the same parental control? The computers are like, and so I just really encourage you to not avoid conversation. And if they have questions, it's okay to say, hey, I need to research that myself. Your mind doesn't have to work as quickly as the internet does. You don't have to respond to them, but they are listening to you and they're listening to what you say, and they have access to the videos that you have access to. And your offline conversations mean so much more than your online conversations do at your house. And so make sure that if you are talking to your kids and they have questions, acknowledge that they have questions, because if you're not going to talk to them, somebody will. And so I just really encourage you guys, it's okay to not have all the answers. I didn't know a lot of stuff. I learned a lot today myself. And so don't be afraid to do the research. Don't be afraid to push pause on a conversation and say, hey, you know what? I need to go learn a little bit more. Or do you want to learn with me? But I would really encourage you guys to frame your conversations at home and don't just ignore it, because they're going to find the answers themselves, and teach them now how to go to the Bible first and not to a TikTok video to get their faith.
Hey, one of the most intelligent things a person can say sometimes is, I don't know, let's find out.
Yeah.
That's an incredibly intelligent.
Yeah. So anyway, just want to encourage that you guys can disagree. You can have other people have opinions, but you can also be really kind in the conversation and believe that people are also doing the same work that you're putting in. You might not agree with it, but Be careful with those babies.
I would say the scripture is forever settled. Like Scripture doesn't change. The Word of God is inspired, inerrant. We believe it, and so there are lots of things that may be unclear biblical passages. So don't hold those as your dogma, as your doctrinal truths.
Yeah.
Interpret unclear scriptural passages with clear scriptural passages. Regardless of your position on Palestine or Israel, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself are not set aside because you have a certain position on that. And so
on that, I would say this, kind of to apply what you just said. I am dispensational. If you want to put me in a camp, I am pre-trib, pre-mill, return of Christ. I believe in a literal kingdom. I think amillennialism is influencing a lot of the replacement theology that we see going on right now, that the kingdom is not literal and all that kind of stuff. And I know kind of where I am, but at the end of the day, the Bible really doesn't, it's not incredibly clear on all the particulars. Sure. So all I can tell you is I think to me, that it makes the most sense. But I'm not dogmatic as a hill to die on if that's the way it's got to be. And I sure don't think that if you're not that you're not a true Christian, because that is not, your eschatology is not the litmus test of whether or not you know Christ.
100%.
Because the Bible's not perfectly clear on how it all plays out. Boy, there's some things that I read that Jesus says, especially in Matthew, that sound really mid-trib. I mean, so I'm like, whoa. Yeah. I mean... I hope it's not that way.
But you know what he's clear on? That he's the way and the truth and the life.
There you go.
Nobody comes to the Father but by him. Not through Israel, not through America, through Jesus.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Austin?
I think y'all are really smart. That's what I
thought you were going to say, and that's bowling. I thought that's what you were going to say.
Last word.
And that's all about bowling. We miss you, Scott. We'll try to get Scott on here next time.
Yeah, that was Scott. Was it? What is it? We ended the segment.
He said, and that's bowling right there. That was like my favorite quote of this entire podcast, any season pick. No, I mean, one thing that's just kind of rolling around in my mind, and we have sort of gone past this, but, just on the replacement theology kind of note, I mean, it's interesting that, I mean, there is still a physical concern, geographical concern in the Middle East. And if that were true, if the church had replaced Israel altogether, there would not be this concern and this focus still geographically in the area that we see all this conflict and turmoil taking place. So, I mean, I think it's just really important to just take all this in and just really kind of know where you land in God's giant story, and not to be overly prideful, to think too much of yourself. Just, know Christ. It's really, I mean, it's really the center focus of all of these segments that all these podcast episodes is like, it is important to talk about this, but like nothing is ever going to become more important than knowing Christ and to repent of sin and to be saved. That's the thing that you need to be the most certain about in this life. And maybe on the other side of eternity and in heaven, when we are physically present before the Lord, some of those things will be answered. But you know what? They're still going to pale in comparison to his presence and his glory. And I would be so much more concerned about making sure I'm there, making sure the people that I'm around day in and day out get to experience eternity with him.
So free plug to end it for you. The Ask Pastor Brian section should be probably full of questions if you have any on this, but also those videos about how to be saved are on there too. So share those more than you do Tucker Carlson videos.
There you go. I think that's a perfect way to end it, man. End of the day, most important thing is to repent of sin, turn to Christ, and be saved, right? We'll see you next time on Live at Liberty.